So in some sense, it's always a pose. But I never know when I'm going to press that button. So once again, I'll try not to recap too much, but once again, on this image, and that little gap, which, you know, because I talk about the quadrants kind of 9 over 8 or 8 over 9, so 2 root 2 over 3, 3 or 3 over 2 root 2, either one of those two, 1. Whether it's 1 to 2 root 3, or whether it's 1 to 2 root 2 over 3, or whether it's, 3 over 2 root 2 to 1, or vice versa, or wiki versa, or however. I hate to beat a dead horse, especially since I don't know anything. But the people who know shit aren't talking about it. Somebody's got to do it. I'm not saying I'm the guy to do it, but I'm a guy trying to do it. And of course, these numbers, or these, I'm only putting this up because some people might be like kind of into it and know a little bit about it, and it might be like, oh. I mean, when I realized, and this is one of those things I figured out for myself, but I use shit I learned from other people to figure it out, so it's not like I figured it out by myself, right? What would we ever figure out ourselves unless, like, there's that movie Castaway where the dude learns to do shit, and it's like, it is shit he learned to do by himself, but he was also a product of, like, some aspect of history. So did he learn anything by himself? Plus he was raised by his mom, and he was married to his wife. The movie Castaway with Tom Hanks, but then, like, put a baby there alone. That's going to bring me back to Galapagos, which is where I wanted to get to once again. What an enigma, because it's used so much in this idea of evolution, but yet we have yet to learn the lesson. It's protected. The Galapagos Islands are protected more than, if you're watching this video, probably the neighborhood you live in, right? Where is more protected than the Galapagos? The Galapagos Islands are protected better than most capitals in the world. Better than your home. Better than anywhere you've ever been. If Washington fell, if our forms of government fell, the Galapagos would still be protected. What's the most amazing thing about the Galapagos? As a human being, what's the most amazing thing about the Galapagos? Oh, it's about Darwin and about all this and about the long beaks and the flowers. Yeah, awesome. That is awesome, right? I'm going to be controversial for a minor moment. Could that place have been made? Could that be 16th century Dr. Moreau's Island, so to speak? It's worth questioning. Set that aside. But what's the most amazing thing about that place? Because people say it's all about the evolution and Darwin and all that. And who are the people who say that? The people who go there. And what are they really impressed with? The fact that they can go up to wild animals that would run away from them everywhere else in the world. Because it's fucking awesome. Why is that place protected? that place is protected because the people who go there, including some very, 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 very powerful people, are awestruck by the quote-unquote godliness of the place. And what it represents, the harmony that could be. Unfortunately, we've hacked so many motherfucking things to death that, that's gonna take a while for the rest of the world to do that, unless we all do it at once or in a short period of time. You'd be fucking amazed what could happen around the world if we stop hacking up that meat. Anyway, tetrahedra, triangle, that little gap. Now, looking down on a tetrahedron right on the face, that gap looks one way. It's different when you look at it side view. We'll get there eventually. So, I was trying to do two things yesterday at once. I'm going to try again. And this time, I'm going to focus on the other side of what I'm trying to do. So I got these little triangles. So these would represent, and I took the radius measurement from the picture I was showing before. So I'm going to cut these out, and I'm going to work on them. And mostly this is an experiment to see if I can do two things at once. I've got another 40 plus minutes to do so. And I'm motivated to do it. I'm motivated to do it quickly because inside of me I'm still thinking like I want to eat my supper, right? I'm thinking like, okay, I don't know why. I recognize I'm a complete fool. I recognize it day in, day out. 1,000 times a day. I'm just like, what a fucking idiot. Yet at the same time, and this is as or more true than the fact that I'm an idiot. I got the aliens, the fucking leprechauns, the fucking Smurfs, the fucking fallen angels, God, the philosophers of the ages, AI, and CERN. All fucking beaming down on me 24/7. Deep doop deep doop 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 doop. And what am I thinking about? What's for supper? Tomato sandwich, some Hellman's vegan mayonnaise. I know it's not good for you, but it's the first time I saw it in the store, and I wanted a tomato sandwich with vegan mayonnaise. And they didn't have any other kind. And some of that vegan shit ain't any better for you. I think it's Hellman's. I'm gonna have some no salt tater chips. And if I'm up for it, after I'm done here, because I forgot to buy soup, I'm gonna have a little bit of stir-fried squash with onions. I can't fucking wait. Is it the right thing? No. Do I want it? Yes. I'm as imperfect as they come, you know. But that won't stop me. So I got this. They're little plastic pieces. I used to use them when I made little faux finish samples. They're like these little plastic. They were called mighty boards, but I don't know what they're made out of. There's some kind of plastic or vinyl or something. I think it's similar to the type of stuff they use to template like granite countertops, but I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure. But because I cut them out by hand, I got to sand the edges a little bit because they're a little rough. It's hard to make perfection with these like little imperfect things. But what I'm going to try to do is, because these triangles circumscribed by a circle are the 2 root 2 over 3. This radius would represent the 2 root 2 over 3 if these triangles constructed a tetrahedron that was circumscribed by a sphere, and that sphere would have a radius that was just a little bit bigger. And I understand it in so much as I'm not saying I figured it out, but I'm saying like I came to it with knowledge that was given to me that I got off the interweb. I came to it, so it's not my knowledge. But I came to it, so now I gotta try to figure it out well enough so that I understand it like pew, but also so that I can say it like pew. And I've never seen anyone say it at all. Never mind like pew and all that math shit with all this, that, whatever. We're talking about little itty bitty numbers now. Once you get into cutting that tetrahedron, it's mostly small numbers. When you're cutting it in specific orientations, but a couple kind of big numbers in comparison to the little numbers that I deal with, which are, in this case, mostly less than 10. A couple pretty big numbers come up that are like, what? But it's the simplest object in existence. I'm a little bit dodecahedron and phi prejudice, only because I'm so sad of the negligence of the tetrahedron, which seems so simple, and the triangle, the equilateral triangle, the triangle of triangles. Everybody's all about the right triangle. Yeah, powerful. Descartes, powerful. Like in the mathematics of the day, the Cartesian cubic, the grid, the 2D grid, the 3D grid in cubes is like, in some sense, considered, I mean, that's the most like effective or accessible mathematical system. So when I'm talking about Cartesianism, I don't know shit about Descartes. Except for that I think therefore I am is a misnomer of I am therefore I think. Amness precedes thinkingness. Awareness precedes consciousness. But so we think of that Cartesian grid as the simplest thing, but it's not. This is the simplest thing. And trying to understand it is 1,000 times harder than trying to understand a cube. Of course, they relate all that and the octahedron and all this, but just saying. And like I said, the dodecahedron and the pentagon are given a lot of preeminence these days, and I'm not saying they don't deserve it, but if we don't understand this to the core, Never mind the amplitude atroplex. I'm sorry. I was watching it's like the best ever what is it? The best ever food. It was like some travel food show, and it was like called like the best ever food something podcast show. Dude wears a bandana. I think that's kind of like his gig. He's got like a folded up bandana, kind of like a sweatband. That's his gig. It was a really awesome show. And every single show was all about like different types of fucking animals and eating them and all this shit. So, the worst, really, I've seen it before too, all that Nigerian bushmeat shit, man. But anyway, just looking at videos of different parts of the world and how many people there are and like what I wish to accomplish and the things I've seen, the visions, man, in one form or another. The visions I've had and what has come to be, or what has always been like my mission. There's my propensity and there's what I am. And that I don't know. I've caught glimpses. And it's frightening both in its largeness and its smallness. But a large chunk, if not the entirety of my mission is pretty clear, and it at times exists in moments in my mind, and at other times sweeps me away in multi-hour or multi-day torrents of thought. But it's a singular object. When it exists in a moment, it exists like a painting or like a statue field. There, still, all seen, but very detailed and inexpressible. When it exists as hours or days, that's when the words come in. That's when the moving pictures come in, and not just moving around the still images. And I'm not saying this is a firm foundation, but this is the firmest foundation I can find. The simplest object, 4 points in 3 dimensions. If I can't understand it, what good am I? If I'm seeking truth. And if I can't not only understand it in my mind, but like if I can't understand it and if I can't express it to other people, I could learn all kinds of things in the world. And what difference would it make if we don't get all there together, right? So then that comes into like, and that's the thing too, people think philosophically the idea of reincarnation and resurrection don't come up. But it's really important as far as Greek goes, which the whole thing with Western philosophy, and I'll get into this, God, I hope I do pray, man. I do pray I can make this book or video or something, because it's there in my mind. You know, the whole thing with like Athens, right? The whole entire Western civilization, which America is accredited with being produced from. Now, I'm saying that there is a blend of an Eastern and somewhere between Africa in that region between Africa and Asia, where Africa and Asia meet, which is essentially also not very far, you know, the whole Fertile Crescent, all that shit. India, Turkey, all that. I'm saying that was the hidden hand behind the white people. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and be really controversial, and I'm not even going to give up any background information on it. I'm just going to fucking say it because it's the fucking truth. Underground Railroad, how far underground, how far back in time. There were a lot of slaves here who weren't slaves. There were slaves on plantations who were slaves of famous peoples of history who were actually the teachers of the people who pretended to be their masters. That's the truth. What am I saying? I'm saying there were motherfucking pharaohs growing that tobacco. Etc. Full disclosure requires a lot of work, a lot of study. And as Seal said, we're never going to survive unless we are a little crazy. Consider all the things that are being considered today by anybody who considers anything. And yet we deny the idea that maybe the disciples are still around. He said they would live to see these things, those things that have yet to happen. Maybe it's because they're still around. And then we talk about immortality or this or that. Yet disbelieve the idea that some dude pumping your gas has been here for 10,000 years. I haven't, and I recognize I'm a little smirky about it, but I'm trying to appeal to your smirkiness, because smirkiness is a defense mechanism against the brutal weight of existence, the brutal weight of receiving the murderousness of the planet, and not just on people. And smirkiness is a defense mechanism against the complete horror of realizing that everything, not everything, but most of what we thought we knew isn't true. Or it's not deep enough or large enough of a truth. There's not enough of a granulation. We don't have enough resolution to our truth, you know. How can I understand? How can I understand anything if I don't understand the simplest object? But yet, how can I understand anything if I'm just not myself and if I don't just like love people? But in some sense, we've all been corrupted so much. And we don't even need to be corrupted by our environment or by our family or by our school system or this or that. But you could live in a perfect community in an imperfect world, but you're still getting stuff. You're still getting stuff. Oh, what do you mean? Blah, 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 blah. I don't know, quantum entanglement, blah, blah, blah. If two electrons or two atoms or two whatever can be paired in a laboratory, what does that mean? It doesn't mean that they're pairing something that wasn't paired before. They're unpairing two things and repairing them together. Every electron's paired. So when we're having a bad day, it might be because some dude's hitting his dog. And we have a disproportionate, which might be just like 3 electrons paired with that dog halfway around the world. But that's enough to create a chain reaction. It's just like in a pool of lamprey eels, one drop of saliva, and that fucking pool will erupt as those lamprey eels just start going, "Wah!" That's all it takes. Or just like that little bit of red catalyst in Bondo. That's all it takes. Just a little bit. Or just flicking that first domino. I hate the fucking flick of the domino. Whenever I see dominoes, it reminds me of how it only takes one little trigger in my Pavlov mind before those dominoes fall down. And why does that make me mad? Well, it makes me mad because it happens, and there's a lot of times not much I can do about it. And I see the trigger happening, and it could be whatever that triggers, whatever inside me. And I'm like, fuck, I just got triggered. And it's like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And then I just fucking melt down. Anyway, it sucks. I hate it. It fucking sucks. But the answer to the whole behavioralism thing, as I've said before, dogs don't eat bells. Yeah, you can fuck with shit. You can do shit. That's magic, man. That's magic. That's fucking magic. Goes a whole lot deeper than that, but like, you want to know about magic in the world? Ring a bell, cut a hole in a dog, and watch them salivate. That's magic. But why? Yeah. Why is it magic? It's bad magic. Why? Because dogs don't eat bells. Get them to salivate all they want, they won't eat a fucking bell. Now, you could do it with shit. You could do other shit. You could take 2 Oreo cookies, scrape them together like sandpaper, and do whatever you did to the dog, and that would make them salivate. And then you could feed them the Oreo cookies. Pavlov should have thought ahead. You should have foreseen my argument. And then you could kill the dog with the Oreos. Slowly. Which in a sense is what's done to us, but there's a lot more to it to that. Plus, deadening the mind is not... This is the problem. There has to be a mass... Man, I hate being the guy who says this, because a lot of... I don't know, it's just something about some of the militant vegans. I just fucking like... I hate their style. I hate the way they go about it. I hate how mad they are at people. Be like, it's like, man, we were all born into this shit. So were the animals, never mind. Like, I don't believe anything. but I hear shit. I don't believe history. I don't believe or disbelieve anything until I can experience it. I won't 100% believe there were dinosaurs until I can travel back in time, either through a spaceship or through a meditative practice, see them for myself, climb on them, try to get eaten by them. Like, I won't believe them. I'll kind of believe them. I'll weight that belief, so to speak. That's different than religious belief, too, by the way. And people talk about like faith, belief, and knowledge, right? Say, well, I have faith. I have faith, so I believe. The gift of faith ain't about belief. The gift of faith ain't about knowledge. You don't want the gift of faith. I mean, you do, but like, once you have it, you wish you had a different. You wish you had a different gift. Because the gift of faith means you're a dumb fuck. Ask me how I know. I won't give you the completeness of it, but I've been there, and I got it. And I didn't get it from me, or from a book, or from fucking anything else. Right? The gift of faith, it's like getting kicked in the fucking nuts. Because the gift of faith means you don't believe. The gift of faith means you don't know. Or at least that's how it was in my semester. It means you're going to be embarrassed. It means you're going to make mistakes. It means you're going to be wrong. It means you're going to fail. It means people are going to laugh at you. It means people are going to hate you, be mean to you. It means you're going to be afraid of people bigger than you. You're going to be afraid of people smaller than you. You're going to be afraid of people dying, people being born, young people, people of every creed and every color. You're going to be afraid of yourself. You're going to be afraid to be awake. You're going to be afraid to be asleep. That's the gift of faith. Because when you're totally fucked, the gift of faith is the only thing that keeps you alive. And that's the fucking truth. If everything else I've said is a lie, that's the truth. For me, it came 3 words: faith, faith, faith. At the bottom of the bottomless pit, man. That's all I really want to say about it right now, because I already recognize the fact that I must appear incredibly pretentious, which is going to affect the efficacy of my message. And I think about the efficacy of my message because it matters. The message matters way more than me. And if I fail, the message fails. And if the message fails, we fail. Period. Not everything I say is my message or the message. It's not far off. And I'm sorry to you, whoever you are, as I'm sorry to the Most High. I'm sorry for my pretensions. Very, very, very sorry for my pretensions and my faults and my weaknesses. It's not great, but it's better. Yeah, as I say that, because I often talk about how like decrepit I am and like how horrible my life is, and then I look at other things, and yeah, today I was shocked a little bit out of myself, and I'm embarrassed for having so much. I'm embarrassed for having so little. I'm embarrassed for not doing more with what I have, and I'm embarrassed for not having less and doing more with the less that I don't have. As well I should. But I also have to remind myself that I shouldn't be comparing myself to people who've been around for fucking 10,000 years. Or maybe 1,000 years. Maybe 100,000 years. Some old dudes out there. Simplest shape in the world. Generally accepted. More than generally. Almost universally accepted. I find it tedious doing work that other people could slam through, man. Imagine being a weaver back in the day, all day long. Bang, 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 bang. Before there were podcasts. I'm not positive, but I think in some places it must have been this way. There must have been, like, storytellers must have been. I mean, I know storytellers they're like prophets, they were like all kinds of things, and it depends what culture you went through or whatever. But if all of society fell down tomorrow and like people had to be reduced to remedial tasks, this is important because it might happen. This is important to remember. Remember this almost above anything else. If all of society falls apart tomorrow and we have to employ people in redundant remedial tasks, as we already do anyway, but like even more so, be sure to separate some musicians and some storytellers to sing their songs and tell their stories. The whole idea of the Negro spiritual, man, get people through the fucking day. It's what gets you through that shit. It's what carries you through that shit, and it's what took everything above and beyond this shit. But yeah, I often find these tasks too remedial. And I'm trying to get to the point where I can do things with my hands and with my mouth at the same time. Doing two things at once. Why? And this is super important. I don't talk about it enough. Those old sewing circles, man. People have no idea how much the world's really run by, not necessarily really run by women, but equally run by women. And the men who understand that, and the men who have understood that through the thousands of years that men have dominated. But the incredibly, like, genius isn't the right word. Saints is a better word. Witches, sorceresses, angels, the women of the ages, the old women, old one day, young the next, women, through the ages. And I know there's all kinds of conspiracy shit about that. Not all kinds, but there's enough out there about that type of shit. And it's usually kind of nefarious and in a witch, Lucifer, Satan, this, that, whatever type of sense. But you can't think that way, man. You can't think that way about the monks. And trust me, it's something I've had to remind myself because I've been through some shit. Once again, I'm being a little bit theatrical about it. And I'm sorry. I'll try to lighten up. I still do have a sense of humor. Even though I'm pretty beat down by this whole trying to understand thing. Anyway, those old stone circles, when the old masters or mistresses, which gets a bad rap, that word gets a bad rap, mistress, gets a bad rap. And it's funny that the masters have an A and that the mistresses have an I. And the mistresses is a Mr. S's. So they'd be talking their gossip or talking about this or that or whatever. But they'd be weaving super complicated patterns, mathematical patterns, in grids, and not just Cartesian grids. Not all knitting is a Cartesian grid. They were fucking working out that Eisenstein shit, man. Way back. Because there's weaving, and then there's knitting, and then there's macrame. So you're talking about these multi-dimensional surfaces way before that shit ever ended up in the periodicals, or at least the Western ones. At least the Western ones. At least the Western ones, right? Not to say everything, because people get all hard-ons about the fucking East, man, but about how, like, the West is so patriarchal or whatever, but East was pretty fucking patriarchal. They were pretty mean to their women folk for a long motherfucking time, including now, all around the world. And there probably were a lot of, like, bad witch, sorceress, secret society women folk. There probably were. Maybe they became badass because they had to. Because the big, strong men were such... Not all men are big and strong, but some are. And if they're also mean, they can do a lot of damage. So there probably were some pretty evil, quote-unquote evil or murderous or vengeful communities that sought vengeance. Can't blame them. But in the same token, especially in a magical world, or a religious world, or spiritual world, there's no end to that. There is an end, but there's no beyond the threshold to that way of thinking. So you can't blame them. But, like, how vicious would you have to be to forgive? How dangerous? How dangerous would you have to be to forgive? But to see it all, and then to actually come up with an idea that was a solution. Not boys will be boys. Not, oh, it's the circle of life. But inside yourself, putting your foot down and saying, no, no. The God that rules here is not the complete God. I don't just need God, God needs me, so to speak. You can apply it to reason. Because the same thing you could say about, because people worship a living God. A sleeping God is alive. There are sleeping giants. There are sleeping gods, demigods, whatever, this, that, whatever. But a part of God sleeps. There are parts of God's potential we do not want to awaken. There's already part of that potential that is awake among us. That part can never be completely killed in eternity, but it's meant to live there. There are parts of eternity that live in the world today that are meant to live in eternity alone. And we have brought them here. Those parts of eternity that live in the world that ought not be here have pushed back into eternity pieces of God that should be here. It depends in which direction of time that causality happened, but it happened, or it happened backwards. I did go to the Home Depot. This refers to yesterday's video. I did go to the Home Depot today because Abishan didn't have that thin wire. So I walked through the Home Depot. They had two whole big, huge aisles on electrical stuff, and they had all kinds of wires. So I was getting my hopes up, but then I kept seeing big wire, big wire, big wire, big wire, and I was like, Then I asked the dude who worked there. I was like, "Hey, you got any of that 20? You got any of that 28 gauge, real thin coated wire?" And he's like, "Nah." And I was like, "You know anywhere I could get that size online?" He's like, "Well, Radio Shack ain't open no more. I don't know where you're gonna get that wire. Gonna have to get it online." I'm paraphrasing. And he didn't say it quite like that. And because I don't order shit online, because I have undependable delivery service here, because the way my door's kind of around like the back of my house or my apartment building, there's 3 units here. They'll put shit here, they'll put shit there, and I don't feel like inconveniencing my folks. I was thinking about ordering it on Walmart online, but I'm behind the times, man. I just got this phone. I'm a YouTube whore. I got my videos. I got Audible. I Google shit, Wikipedia, etymology online. You know, that's my gig. That's it. I don't do no TikTok. I do no Twitter. I used to do Facebook. Don't do Facebook no more. Got a page on there still. I haven't logged into it for like 5 years. I don't know. Maybe it's still there. I don't know. Why? Never mind. Anyway. So I did what I said I was going to do yesterday. I took this nail. Can you see? Maybe you can't see. I took this nail. I coated it with carpenter's glue. Now I'm gonna coat it with that acrylic shit I was talking about yesterday. And I have 3 minutes left before my phone is completely full. So now I got this little waxy stuff. It's acrylic wax. It's just a really thick acrylic coating. I have that over the glue. I'm hoping that's enough of a barrier on the nail so I can wrap my wire around. I'll keep the wire separated instead of coiling it up over itself. And then once I go the run, I'll coat it again with the glue and the wax and keep doing that till I got 50 yards. Maybe, unless I can find some of that wire somewhere. But if I can't, I'll keep doing this. And if it takes me a year, it'll take me a fucking year. And if it works, it works. And if it don't, I'll try something else. And that's it.